Joining me now are Jamal Simmons and Margie Omero. Thank you both for coming on the show tonight.
Good evening, Reverend.
Jamal, let me try this different. The shutdown is killing the GOP, isn't it?
Yes. Listen, we saw this happen in the 1990s. The Republicans tried this. It didn't work out very well for them. A lot of people weren't believers. They weren't around. They weren't paying attention. You know, a lot of these members of Congress were doctors and insurance salesmen and, lawyers and school teachers and whatever they were doing before they ran for Congress. They weren't even in the state legislature. So they don't really understand how politics works. And at the end of the day, you've got to be willing to cut a deal. And now we see in the New York Times, the business people in the Republican Party feel like they're being left out, and they don't even get to have a say, and they know that if we don't raise the debt limit, we're going to kill the national economy.
But Margie, we see they come back with a proposal to extend conversations, to extend the debt limit as long as they're having conversations on the budget, yet keep the government shut down. I mean, they just don't get it, do they?
No, they're in a fantasy world where what they're doing is popular and is considered to be good for the economy. Neither of those things are true. The NBC poll is consistent with what Gallup is showing, historic low approval rating for Republicans in Congress. Gallup also showed that the #1 concern right now is government dysfunction more than the economy, more than jobs. I mean, this is really a disgrace. And you have the business community, as Jamal said, they don't think that this is a good idea. So what is the point exactly? If it's unpopular and people who work in the markets and business leaders don't think it's a good idea, then why are we having this exercise? Why are we in this fight? It's completely misguided.
But Jamal, let me go back to trying something a little different. Let's pretend a minute you were a Republican strategist, and you were over there tonight, right now, and you were going to advise Mr. Speaker Boehner and Cantor. What would you tell them to do, given the standing with the public and given the fact they've got these hard right Tea Partiers that they have to deal with? What would you advise them how to deal in the middle of this?
Rev, the debate right now is not between Democrats and Republicans. It's not between liberals and conservatives. The debate right now is between rational Republicans who understand how the world works and the irrational radical Republicans. They are in a coalition that has people in it who are against government. So how do you govern with people who are against government? My advice would be to Speaker Boehner, listen, find 30 or 40 Republicans who agree with you. You only really need about 30. Get the Democrats, get Nancy Pelosi in a room, and let's just go ahead and cut a deal. You decide you're going to do 2 or 3 really important things over the next year: tax reform, immigration reform, and your speakership's going to be over, but you'd probably be a national hero. But you got to decide to cut the cord with these crazy people who are in your caucus.
Now, I think Jamal would be a great Republican strategist.
now, Margie, let me bring the polls back in, Margie. When you look at, and these are brand new polls, hot off the press, NBC polls, the GOP is getting even more blame for this shutdown than the one back in '95. 53% blame the GOP now. Back in '95, 43% blame the GOP. The public is much more worried about this shutdown than they were in the mid-90s. Today, 73% say the shutdown is extremely or quite serious. In '95, only 57% said the same thing. So the 1990 shutdown was a disaster for the GOP if you look at the elections after it. This one looks even worse, Margie.
Yeah, it's clearly a mistake. I haven't seen a single solitary poll that shows more people blaming the president than blaming Republicans in Congress. Ted Cruz tried to show off a poll of his own to make some case, and even his polls showed that Republicans had more blame. So it's unquestionable that they're taking, look, we're all losers, as the congressman said in the segment below and before, and the president's going to take a hit on this, but ultimately Republicans are the ones who are seen as not getting the sense of urgency for all the people that are affected, not getting the sense of urgency of our economy, and thinking of this as a game, as brinksmanship, as a political partisan game, as opposed to something that is where there's a lot at stake, where we're talking about actual real lives and food and medicine at stake.
You know, Jamal,
I know somebody
Democrats
sitting right now. I know somebody sitting right now over at the White House who is floating credit card bills and is waiting for hoping this is going to be done by the first of the month so they can pay their rent. This is having real impacts on real federal workers.
And that's the real problem that they have. The politics of it is also very interesting because Democrats have already started campaigning on this. A progressive group has released a new TV ad in GOP districts attacking lawmakers for supporting the shutdown. Watch.
Sean Duffy joined Tea Party Republicans in Congress and shut down our government, putting hundreds of thousands of Americans out of work, slashing Head Start for thousands of kids, putting benefits for seniors at risk, denying cancer treatments for kids, and halting food inspections. Economists say Sean Duffy's Tea Party shutdown could weaken the economy and devastate middle-class families.
Now, we're heading into the 2014 midterm elections. Polls are saying 39% would prefer a Republican-controlled Congress. 47% would prefer Democratic-controlled Congress, Jamal. They are heading into the midterm elections beginning to take a real political beating on this.
You know, and I'll let Margie hop in here too, because at the end of the day, what we know what happens last time is that the way the Republicans have redistricted these districts, even though the majority of Americans voted for Democrats for members of Congress last time, Republicans still won the majority. So what we've got to know is, you know, even though we've got these numbers, they've kind of got this built-in safe zone that these Republican radicals are sitting in, so they're not afraid of numbers like this.
Margie, quickly. All right, well, let me move. I'm out of town. Jamal Simmons, Margie Omero, thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
Still ahead, why is Michelle Bachmann